And welcome to our Hiku community board here in Hiku today. I'd now like to call on Darren X, member X, to read the opening prayer, please. Hiku.
Cease the winds from the west, cease the winds from the south. Let the breeze blow over the land. Let the breeze blow over the ocean. Let the red-tipped dawn come sharpened ear. A touch of frost, a promise of a day.
First of all, before we start, I'd like to pass on condolences to the Gerald Bainbridge, member Bainbridge. I would like to just have a few seconds silence and remember him. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'd like to call for apologies. I've got an apology from Rachel, member Bake, LP. And Hilda.
Scott's my boss, yeah. Team as well as you like to say you're okay.
Well, welcome to our meeting today.
I'm not sure if everyone's been everybody.
Fleur, sorry.
It's democracy services. One for Hiku stars.
Hello. So who's the new nation?
Thanks again.
Oh,
Until
thank you. So do I have to move the intelligence? I'll move them. Doesn't appear to be anyone in public forum today.
we do have Esther, but I'm not sure if Esther's speaking to the funding information. And Craig CUC was also speaking to a funding application. So Esther, you speak to an application? Yes.
Okay, well, we'll get into execution. So we'll go straight into the speakers. So welcome, Esther.
Good morning.
Fantastic. We can hear you clearly.
Oh, beautiful. My name is Esther, and I'm the writer and director of the short film Loloma, and I'm today representing a small team of filmmakers. Loloma is a passion project that's been in the making for 5 years, and our aim with this film is to celebrate Fijian culture and language. We will be filming primarily in Kaitaia and Kawakawa, both of which are significant places for our team. This is where much of our family are from and were raised, so it's important that we honour these places and the communities that reside in them. We've been collaborating with local businesses. The Kawakawa train station's been amazing. They're allowing us to film at their station using their train, which is just another chance for us to share some of Northland's magic with an audience. We're seeking some financial support to help make the film. We're all very passionate, independent artists who also have full-time jobs, and it's quite tricky sometimes balancing the two, paying your bills and making your art. We're super lucky to be one of this year's Boosted X Moana recipients, which means that they believe in our story and they believe in what we're trying to do and will match us dollar for dollar up to $2,000 during our crowdfund campaign. However, if we don't hit our $5,500 target, then we won't receive a cent and all the money will be refunded back to the donors. So it would be incredible for us to be able to celebrate and share with our audience that the Northland District Council was able to financially support this film, and any sum of funds would go a really long way in helping this project reach its completion. That's basically everything I have. So if you guys had any questions, then I would be happy to answer them.
So Easter, it's Adele Gardner speaking. What you're asking for is $1,800 for accommodation and $500 for food, and $200 for photo frame and props.
That's right.
So I would rather give you the money for the editing and colour grading of $2,000. And that's just from my perspective.
Yep.
It's not a good look today to be funding food and accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
Just anyway, that's just myself. Is there any other questions from the?
Sorry, John Stewart. So how many people does this involve? I'm sorry if I haven't read it. On your, how many of you will be up here filming at any one time?
There will be 7 of us in total.
7. All right. That's it.
Any other questions for Easter?
Darren, when the film's completed, will it be shown on television or at a movie theatre or?
Yes, so what we would love to do is host a screening open to the community in Kaitaia in their local theatre, but also we will be submitting this film to international film festivals and to festivals across New Zealand. And if it's successful, then it will be screened in theatres wherever it's accepted. So that would be our next aim. And then after that, if it's successful, to be able to license it out so it could either be in theatres or on a streaming service.
Thank you.
No other questions? Well, thank you so much, Esther, and we'll be considering your application further on in the meeting.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
CSU was also online. Speaking from there. Could you unmute and the board will hear from you now?
Kia ora, good morning everybody. My name is Craig Silsil from SMC Events, which is the company that has run Sanitarium Weet-Bix Kids Triathlon for the past decade or so. Just want to speak to my application to return to the Te Hiku board community area up north and to year 2 of Tri Challenge. I'll just quickly take you through, it's in our application, but I'll just take you quickly through how we got to this model of Tri Challenge in schools. We're an event management company that's worked for Sanitarium, who own the Weet-Bix Kids Triathlon. We've worked with them for about 14, 15 years. We used to do the triathlon in Waitangi, and I guess that was an extension of when we went to big metropolitan areas and the triathlon was going really well. We tried to replicate that in some further afield places like the likes of Bay of Islands and Rotorua. And COVID presented an opportunity to kind of relook at that model. So when we were looking at the same time on how we could navigate the COVID process, a couple of things became apparent to us, is that in places like Gisborne and Bay of Islands, Rotorua, maybe Hutt City, we had a model where we would organise the triathlon and then expect everyone to come to us. And then we'd work really hard at reducing the entry fee of $40 or $50 down to 5 or 10 where there were areas of need or deprivation or even rurally challenged communities. And what COVID allowed us to do was rethink that with Tri Challenge in schools. So a lot of the same theming as Weet-Bix Triathlon, a lot of the same bells and whistles in terms of T-shirts and medals and the experience in terms of music and finish shoot and that sort of stuff. But at the core of it is trying to encourage and excite children about doing physical activity and reward them for getting out and giving it a go. So the model that we came up with, which we tried for the first time last year in the Northern region, was the Try Challenge in Schools, which is a big obstacle course. Some of those photos would have been in our event report and application. And basically we can take up to 600 kids per day. Last year, the event we did at Kaingaroa, we only got to 150. The other one in Kaikoui, we did get close to 600 with 573, and Oromohoi, we got just over 350. But the days themselves are collaborated with the healthy active learning teams in each RST. So we work closely with Sport Northland to make sure we're targeting the right school. Our hope is that if we are able to secure local funding, we'll be able to announce those schools really early, work with the healthy active learning teams and announce those schools really early. And looking at a similar kind of April, May window next year, we'll have a lot of lead in time to get higher engagement the second time around. That's the top line of Try Challenge in Schools and how it came about in our experience last year. But I thought I'd just open it up for questions at this stage and answer any questions that the board might have.
Yeah, hi, John Stewart here. The 150 that you got at Kaingaroa, how do you approach the rest of the schools direct, or how are they actually? Is it down to the individual schools? Like, is it like Kaikoui Primary School needs to take so many children to Kaingaroa on that day? Is that how it works?
Our ideal model, what we've done in all but one area, so we held 24 last year around the North Island, and all but Hutt City, the model was we work really closely with healthy active learning leads in Sport Northland, and they identify the school that would benefit the most and is the most excited about doing it. There were a few hiccups last year where we had a school in the Hiku board area who was going to do it, and then they weren't going to do it. In the end, we probably didn't have the lead in time for the engagement, but our ideal model is work with the healthy active learning team, identify the host school, and quite often they'll look at a cluster or a group of schools that can then come to the host school on that day. And we do up to 3 or 4 sessions during the day. So each session about 100 to 150 kids, which is where we get our 600. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Stuart.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions? Doesn't seem to be any further questions, Craig, from our members. So, but thank you so much for the deputation to this funding application. So we'll be considering it further on in the meeting, and we'll let you know later in the day. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes, may have public. Yeah, have you come to speak in public forum, have you?
Yeah, I just wanted,
Welcome, you have 5 minutes. Yeah.
I wanted to update the community board on where we were with the drainage districts and the process. The 3 Far North committees have taken it upon themselves along with Andy Finch, and they have engaged the contractor, Mr. Steele, to do a certain amount of work. I think quite our contractors in there with one machine. Mr. Steele will be coming back to do some of that work, and now they're looking at the spray contract that they've got up there. So the Far North group seems to be in control there. The biggest thing we have, well, I'll get on that after. The Whārai area is where the council has advertised. They received 2 applicants. I met with Andy Finch last week. Luckily, the weather is that you cannot get out there and spray, etc. at the moment because there's too much water in the drain. But hopefully, he'll be going through those applications at the interview ASAP. Unfortunately for Andy Finch, he has something like 2 hours limited to drainage compared to everything else that he's got on his plate, which makes it very, very hard for anything to happen with this within council. So at this stage in Kaitai, there is no contract set. There was 3 people have done expressions of interest for spraying that we'd run round about. Because there's 3, they're going to put it out as advertised as expressions of interest, and people might want to look at that. So that's where that is at. The biggest issue we have is the bylaw and trying to get a clarity from the council. Councillor Boyd has tried very hard for us. I did ask this committee to ask for a deputation from council to come and sort what it really means. We still have got nothing yet. Right now, they've used the bylaw. They have used the bylaw against individuals, and once that is sorted, it's either a massive amount of breaches of the bylaw that we need to deal with, but that clarity needs to come from the council, and it's just so wish-wash, backwards, forwards. Nobody is prepared to take responsibility. The bylaw, which is part of your, it's number 12 of your role and responsibilities. I need to make you aware that the bylaw is a 5-year program and it needs to be renewed. It's up for renewal next October. They say they're going to look at it in next May. I want to make sure that the community board puts that on the agenda, that we all be involved in it, not council staff in Kaiko that think they know the rules and they've never ever been here or walked the drains or understand the system. We need to make that very clear. RFSs are coming in all the time. There's no coming back to us or to you, or to to the drainage districts to know or understand what people are requiring. So there's no way of setting any work for the program unless we get these RFSs from people. Because when they want to come to us in February, March, and they want some work done, and we're going, the program's out, council says we have to have the program September, October, November, the work is set, sorry, wait for another year. And that is the absolute frustration of the process and the systems that are in place right now. Even with the bylaws, even with the bylaws, there's an issue because we need to make sure who is actually administering them. Right, holidays. I got more to pick up after this. We need to make sure that who is responsible in the council, who understands the bylaws, who's going to come out here and make sure this doesn't happen. Because right now up north, we've got changes in catchments, we've got diversions of water, we've got that much development in the far north, and more water coming from where it should come from. They're all breaches of what I believe is the bylaws. When it comes to get somebody there, doesn't happen, and everybody doesn't want to take on the job. We've got a new Mr. Kevin or Kelvin. He doesn't even want to talk to me, and it's just disgusting what's happening in council.
Madam Chair, the councillors employ the chief executive. The chief executive is supposed to set what staff do. Council has policies, including bylaws, and the chief executive's role is to implement those policies. Could we, as the board who's got the responsibility for the drainage districts, ask the chief executive to come here to a meeting and get this sorted once and for all? Otherwise, we're going to have another year's waiting and doing nothing.
More than that, we have breaches of the contract. There are building permits being given for allowing buildings to be within 10 metres of the drain. Then you have the expectation of people wanting their drain cleaned. Hello, there's a building in the middle of it. There's trees being planted, consent's been given that says plant the waterways. They think it's so fantastic to plant the waterways. And then when you want to go and clean the drain, sorry mate, trees are full up there. And a tree falls into the drain, it stops the water flow, you get flooding. And you go, why did we told you that? This is the stupidity of the council silos within there not working together.
Yep, that's dead right. Gary, what's his name? Gary Steele?
Mike
Steele, sorry. He said they used to be able to clean the drain in one day. Now, because of barricades and trees and stuff, you can't even see where the drain is half the time. It's
we-
ridiculous.
So we have RS, I just do it weekly now, just keep slamming RSs and just slam them all in. Because if we don't do it, they'll say, we don't know anything about it. So as we're a committee of your board, we're all voluntary people out here. And people are getting sick of coming to meetings with councils, sick of trying to do things, and there's just blockages and barricades. And you call it a community, all this fluff in here about community services and community consultation, it's just rubbish.
So can we ask the chief executive to meet with us, not necessarily waiting for the next meeting, but he needs to know, if we understand his role to be implementing policy, what's he going to do about this dog's breakfast?
We need to know it with all the bylaws. Today I was given, there's a petition going out around the community now about the bylaws. The dog management bylaws are not fit for purpose. It's been signed around the community now. So it's another bylaw that people, the council says, oh, we have laws, we have bylaws. But they've got no teeth to implement it, or they've got no one to do it. There's not much you sitting in Kaiko, you need them up here.
Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you very much.
It all reflects back on us over the last, this has been going on 4 years, and we've had people in here, the farmers in here themselves, and nothing's, no results, even though we've barked.
The buck has to stop somewhere, and in my opinion, it stops with the chief executive.
I've done that though, we've been there through 3 of them. It's a joke.
Oh, well, okay.
I don't know why we have the council half the time. Okay.
The-
That's right, carry on with
Yeah,
Jane.
sorry. Do you think we're just lacking people to manage these things or to actually address them? I mean, we've got bylaws and that, but like you said, you've got one person that hasn't got the time.
Yeah.
Put out, voice our opinions, our arguments, et cetera, at council.
The worst part about the drainage is it is a targeted rate. You
Yeah.
rate people every year based on the management of and maintenance of those schemes. They either have to stop the rate or get out there and implement the rate, implement it.
And yeah, just recognising for our staff here today, that we did formally request for the project's delivery team to come and come to a committee board and present about who in compliance team is dealing with the bylaws, because the works program, which Andy Finch is, dealing with in terms of the physical contracts and physical delivery, isn't actually, it's a separate issue, because you have to have warranted officers who implement the bylaw, and Andy Finch is not a warranted officer, and the new drainage person that's been employed, I've read their job description, it doesn't include compliance issues and enforcing the bylaw. And with the drainage committees up here and being under the land drainage bylaw, nowhere else in the district has it. There are 5 different types of stormwater, and I don't think that our staff, number one, and the compliance team understand the 5 different types of stormwater. Number 2, I don't think they understand land drainage and the bylaw itself, and how that is actually different to private circumstances in terms of stormwater management and how that works under the Land Drainage Act, and where the area of benefit is, because under the bylaw, there are no maps attached to it to show where the bylaw applies. So of course the staff don't know where it is, because I can tell you now, the staff don't have any of the maps. The only person who has the maps is Chair Fiona King at her house, because she gave the maps to the staff, and unfortunately the staff lost the maps at the time. So of course the compliance staff don't know where to apply the bylaw, they don't have a map. And I think this just highlights the silos within council, that we need someone from the compliance team to attend. And if the new drainage person that's been employed is going to be enforcing the bylaw, they need to be a warranted officer, and that should be split in terms of the general rate, which pays for our compliance team. The compliance under Kevin's team is part of the general rate, and the bylaw itself, the drainage itself and the target rate is a targeted rate for the actual physical works and delivery of the works. So that needs to be recognised in our financial impact statement, as part of our annual plan process, where we recognise the split and whatever that percentage is for that person, and if they will actually enforce the bylaw or not, and if they're a warranted officer, and therefore be coming to our meetings to update us about the 20, 30 odd RFSs that haven't been addressed for. I think Beverly Mitchell might be creating a list of all those
Yeah, I'm
RFSs.
kind of hoping that she'll find the RFSs. As I have asked Beverly to.
So let me just give you one example of why you won't find any. It's because when they're lodged under roading drains, or there's no actual code associated in the RFS system with land drainage. So you will not be able to search using the code, and it again reflects that we're the only area in all council that this is issued. And actually, our most similar is firefighter, and I'm meeting with them later this month. Helen Robertson, I think it is. Robertson, yeah, and Martel, who's a specialist planner, they're doing universal consents, and they also, add these land drainage issues. So I think that eventually within council, CEO's coming tomorrow, we need to have a sit down with somebody who actually understands the different types of stormwater, who's doing which type of stormwater, and which aspects I was regional council not, and which aspects are civil matter, and what makes the difference between a civil matter, a bylaw matter, a NRC river matter, flood protection works, and overlay flow path management matter, or reticulated stormwater matter. They're all separate issues, and actually nobody's dealing with them because they're not created as separate issues that I allocated. I just think it's lack of knowledge and personally. So
First of all, we need to get the RFS system sorted for a code for land drainage, don't we?
If you have any other.
I think if we go back in the minutes of the last 4 years of land drainage committee meetings, none of them have been addressed.
Even the RFSs I've been putting in, that's why I started just slamming them all in, for drains, I got letters back saying, we've had an inspector go out and look at this, and yes, we'll put out a maintenance thing for Kaimama Road drain. And they say they had somebody out there, and I go, this is a joke. He didn't even read my letter, because it stated very clearly what the land drainage name was, the Okahina stream, which goes up north out to sea. They send a letter, and that's why I say to you the RFS system is a little bit warped, because they just have to write those letters back, and to say an inspector went out to inspect it is just a joke. Because they would have never got to the drain, and they needed to go into private property to see it. The other one is finding out which department is in understanding is responsible, because their compliance team in the past, because they have left council again and you have new people, say that they're not really responsible for it, but yet they are the people that Andy Finch emailed who are actually going to review the bylaw starting next May. So if they're reviewing the bylaw, why aren't they fitting it? And when you talk about the RFSs, when we get it very clear as from a drainage committee or community board chair, if how I read it, and all I wanted was a legal opinion, and what I got from the council was, and I went through a Lagoima, that under the Lagoima they didn't need to give me that information, and it was confidential, so I couldn't even get it that way, is when we know what the law is, I can tell you now, my understanding is, all the avocado orchards north of here, every single drain that they've changed into compartments into the county drains are all breaches of the bylaw. It is everywhere. All of where you live down in Kaitaia here, all the urban spread is all breaches of the bylaw. You can't have a urban rural drain, land drainage drain in an urban area. You can't have a permit being given or resource consent being given using the land drainage area in order so they don't have to do urban stormwater piping, drains, etc. It's happening within council the whole time.
There's more than the bylaw though, because the bylaw relates back to the Land Drainage Act, which is the legal document.
But also the district plan that's just been closed for submissions. From our perspective, from the Drainage Committee perspective, we have objected to it. We requested that the land drainage plans be within the district plan. I got a letter back from them with their list saying, well, no, we actually don't enforce the bylaw, therefore it does not have to be in the district plan. So when you get stuff like that from council, you just lose respect. But that needs to be in that district plan because those planners that sit there with their little pen and read the rules and they don't have those ones allow all these issues to happen. Yeah, that one is, I've got one other subject, but it's quick.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Any more questions on that, on drainage? But we need to have it sorted, not just do another talk and nothing happens.
Can I just also recognise, I know that we don't do stormwater, but there's no people doing general stormwater, which is why there's people doing land drainage bylaw enforcement. I have a list of, I think, 15 to 20 other urban stormwater issues, you know, overland flow paths, identify drains, blockage of culverts, which are in an urban catchment. And there's no stuff to know. I just see no response. The RFS is being outstanding for over a year now. I think it just highlights that there's a systemic issue within our lack of management, lack of delivery, lack of resourcing, which is the frustration.
So you had another.
Kaitai water. I've writing to the council or written to the council to inform them that we have purchased the land around the Kaitai treatment station. Their discharge for their so-called flushing of the bores now runs onto our place. I have written to them to tell them that you cannot do this. And as they quoted to me, it is a civil matter and the council needs to have a discussion between ourselves and them before they discharge any water from their property onto another property. So I wanted to make the community board aware from a community perspective that we respect water to Kaitai, but we do not respect what the council does and how they treat people in the community. We also have on that block telemetry. We learn about this when we purchase it. That doesn't mean to say they can have it there all the time. There is no agreement there. There's no land drainage easements to discharge water there. It's just an assumption. And I will respect the kind of water from a community thing, but I will not respect the way that council treats these sorts of situations, because they've already used that with us the other way around, saying this is a civil matter, you must do this through a court. So I warn you as a community board, please do not get upset at me if there is a issue with the water, because this is where it's all come from. That's all.
Thank you so much for highlighting that.
And by the way, the NRC meeting is being held up here today. And at 1 o'clock, one of the liaison committee, which is the representative here, is invited to be there at 1 o'clock. Are you guys coming?
Oh, it depends on whether our
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh, I shall be. Right.
Well, thank you very
I'll
much.
take all these monsters home and go and get my other three. Thank you. Oh, good. Okay. Good.
Bye.
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 Thanks, Fiona. I really
Okay.
appreciate your
Thank you.
discussion this morning.
Future politicians.
Or not.
Welcome to the.
I think they might actually be stormwater engineers.
Get back to the meeting at hand. We're on to 6.1, which is the confirmation of the previous vote.
For the purposes of the live stream, can everybody speak up, please?
So do I have a mover, please? Isabel?
Actually, I won't. I wasn't here.
Oh, no.
Go.
No errors and I can see. All in favour? Now on to 7.1, which is the road naming of 6671 State Highway 1 High Tyre. I'll move this. Second it, please. So there was 3 suggestions on this particular road naming. So Hotipu Road, Kansas Lane and Cutler's Way.
Do we do have the report either online if you have?
So any discussion on any of the options of what you would like to see on that particular?
I just note that Kerry and Carlton for hire. I believe that it put it to either his name. So,
Proposing that
well, I just, if
Yep.
Kerry Carter's part of it
yeah,
and
In the middle.
Marae, then I can't, but yeah.
and no
It seems
agreed
to
on
fit.
that.
Yeah, it fits.
So we choose Ford Kotapu Road. Thank you.
I,
Right.
All in favour?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Next one is the road naming of Lot 4DP 474929 Inland Road, Kerikeri Peninsula. And there's also the suggestion is Karakira Raki Lane. Please. I'll have a mover and a second, please. Yeah. All in favour?
I,
So we've got project funding reports on 7.3 from Owenry Sports Complex, Far North Torpedo Competition and We Fix Tie Challenge and Scores. I'll move this one. Okay. Any discussion on the reports? In favour?
I,
Okay. On to the 7.4 of the funding applications. Can we do them separately, please? So the first one on the agenda is the account to Esther Louise for Kaitau filming of Doloma for 2,500. Any discussion?
then jump and speak for some, if you like, because I'm on the creative communities committee.
Yes, well, Esther actually, you missed her to speak as a speaker.
Yeah, so,
I'd like to hear what you've got to say.
Yes. yeah, so part of the reason as well that, funding was defined as well as, in terms of it being a film, is actually what will, result from it, what is the outcome, in terms of the cost, a lot of it is for accommodation, food, photo and frame props. So yeah, I think it was just highlighting what being used for and what are the outcomes. One of the questions that was asked, I think it's great. Probably to have in Kaitaia, but a lot of it is around Kawa. Yeah, I'm not actually sure how much it will benefit Kaitaia. Good to hear from other people that have heard more deputation this morning.
I sort of agree. I don't see how many people would involve. I don't know how else these sort of things are funded, but it sounds like we'll get a little clipping of where I think her parents, mother lived or whatever in Kaitaia to begin with. Just don't know how much of an investment it is back into our community without knowing where it's going to end up. You know what I mean? And how, yeah, so that's my opinion. And I don't like the whole, and our chair brought it up, we don't like the whole food and accommodation funding, and we've looked at that and turned that down in the past for other.
I did bring that up to Esther. So
Sorry, through the chair, you redirected that, you wanted to redirect that 2,000.
Yeah, to the editing and sounding mix and color grading, which is cost of 2,000.
Yeah. I suggest, well, I suggest that we look down the track, right, and they come to us for funding and promoting this film if it's a success. So it comes back, what are we as a community going to get out of it? How well, what have you produced? Show us what you produced. And then they talked about putting it up at Te Ahu. Well, they could possibly come back to the board and say, well, we've produced this now and we want to put it through New Zealand, blah, blah, blah. And maybe we could support with promotion of it. But until we know what the finished article is, I don't know if it's our place to invest in that. That's my opinion.
Yep. I totally agree with John.
I sorry to the chair. I understand what John's saying and everyone else is saying, but again, it's not an investment. It's an investment in the culture and the multicultural we have. For example, I'm talking about Aonui. There's been a huge has been over the years a lot of, as I said, inclusion of Fijians and Tongans, etc., to our community, whether it's sports, work, etc., etc. So, yeah, I still see that as an acknowledgement of our community. Yeah, I just want to make that point, and I know what they're up to. But again, like John said, it's a bit vague in terms of what coverage we're going to get.
I actually went to a drama production at Kaitaia College, and there are quite a few kids. My grandson's one of them, around about the age of 15, who are interested. They've got a very good drama teacher at the moment, and it's something that could perhaps be encouraged. We've had some good movies here over the years. In the summer, I mean, that was a way back. In the summer, Back River Road, Up North is the latest one. I'm not in favour of funding food or accommodation, but I wouldn't object to funding the $200 for the frames or whatever, provided that there was definitely a showing of the film in Kaitaia and that students of Kaitaia College were invited to attend.
I'm happy with that. I suppose I'm not trying to say you give them nothing. I like what you just suggested, Jill.
So I'm moving $200 for that purpose. It's on the application, provided that.
I'll second that. Anyone else like to speak to the $200? Fighting.
And I think a message to them to say, you know,
Whatever
at the
you
end of
can
it,
hear.
if they
Come back.
if they come back for support, if there's a way of promoting it and it looks like it's of value to the community.
That all in favour?
Aye.
The next application is the Hiku roller skating for $1,365.
Yeah, I think it's something new and hopefully people.
I'm happy with it. Anything that gets people
I'll move it.
exercising, good.
You're moving, I'm moving it, you'll sit there. Any discussion on this one? Everyone happy, all in favour?
Aye.
Next one is the $5,000 for the SMC events for the Tapu Sanitarium Week Fix Kids Triathlon. Right, Ellen,
Through the chair, this one comes up every year, but I do like the way they've changed it.
yeah.
I had a good reading. Yeah. I do like the way they've made that obstacle course, and it's not so much about entering the triathlon as such, or the event that used to be regional as opposed to local. Would that be right?
That used to be held down in the Bay Island.
I sort of like the idea of picking the correct school in the far north and trying to make it as big as possible. I don't know the board how much you want to. Yeah, I don't know if I want to give them $5,000.
I actually just sent an email to my daughter who's out in the library, and because one of her friends' kids went, apparently last year it was amazing. They had loads of fun. Not sure why they all needed a t-shirt. It was over the top, but it is a worthwhile thing by the sound of it.
So it's only for the t-shirt, the medal.
Yeah, well, that's the trouble, eh?
Yeah.
Mind you, they could get some kit in the middle. You know,
And each kid gets one.
each kid gets something.
Please.
Sure about $5,000, but I've got some funding towards.
I move we give them $2,000.
Second,
You want to take you with that?
Madam Chair, I just want to foreshadow. So previously we gave $4,000 each year, and so that's half.
The basket.
Ali, are you able to pause the live stream for a moment, please?
I put in an RFS ages ago.
Ages ago.
Rescue, did everybody read that graph there, that the applicant was granted 10,000 in July 2023 to undertake cat trapping, de-sexing and treatment for cats within the Hiku ward. They have struggled to get volunteers to help within the ward due to a group of locals who only support trapping and neutering cats be released rather than rehomed. They're working with top vets who have agreed to take traps to be hired out to locals who wish to trap cats, as well as provide discounted de-sexing services, and are asking the board to confirm that this is an acceptable use of the funding provided in July. How does the board feel?
It's acceptable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any discussion on that? Are you happy with that? You were the ones.
Yeah, well, you know, it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? I don't think it's, I mean, it's something we're all gonna address, but 10 grand to between 60 and 90 cats. This seems crazy, but I suppose that's the world we live in.
Through the chair, I don't agree with re-releasing them at all.
No.
And I've got a massive cat problem in Whakanui at the moment. Opposite, right next to Arathusa, with the bird park is, there's a house that a woman has been asked to leave and she's left. She's left 50 cats. And I'm wondering whether to get our council to go up and capture them and euthanize them, because they're all terribly ill. And when you walk near the house, there was one, and then when I turned my back and looked at the photo farm across the road, I looked back and there's 50 cats on the deck waiting to be fed. And she's been gone for 2 weeks.
Madam Chair, we have no keeping of animals by the way, and cats aren't governed under
No.
the
But-
Dog Control Act.
But,
Get somebody to.
Statute.
well, whether she's going to come back and get them, I can get somebody to go shoot them.
Through this is,
But I don't know what to do.
so through the chair, I would recommend contacting Sam from Coast to Coast to see if she can get someone up here to help. She has been working with Donna Doolittle. The problem she had is that when she tried to find people who would trap cats for her, a small but fairly vocal group said that they would basically sabotage all the traps. So whoever does the trapping needs to be fairly local and needs to be willing to check them regularly. That's the issue she was having. Yeah.
Shane, you've got something to say on this matter?
I'm just wondering, because
Can you just speak up a bit, please?
I was saying that Sam would be the person that would help. However, are you talking about the community sabotaging hill traps?
No, patch traps.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam won't do killing just in traps.
Yeah.
She has to assess it first.
So they're human traps.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not anything. It's not doing anything. It's the same person. People get so emotional about these animals. People come and attack your house or anything.
So what would you like to see happen here on this particular, would you like the grant to come back to the board or?
No, Madam Chair, I'm happy to agree to give her the grant, but I think what it highlights is that we want the cats to be addressed, but I don't know if the community board are aware of the last council item that we had on cats. And including them in the bylaw and then including neutering and microchipping, was it?
It was,
Well, the bylaw will want to be monitored.
bylaw
Drainage
doesn't have
bylaw.
any legislation behind it, so there's no enforcement of the bylaw.
But-
It will be sitting there.
But the
But-
Local Government Act 2002 allows for council to create bylaws for any nuisance,
That's
just
right.
like the earthworks
No,
bylaw,
the
just like the
nuisance.
keeping of animals
They'll
bylaw.
be, cats will be included in the nuisance bylaw, and they're gonna be included in the bylaw regardless. But the nuisance part can be enforced, but mandating desexing and microchipping can be in bylaw, but it can't be enforced.
Whangarei Council have had the bylaw in place for, I don't know, how long?
A year.
A year. And so Whangarei Council already have, implemented it and it's already in place.
They've also hired, through the chair, they've hired an education person full-time, and they also have $20,000 going to local cat rescues to take the cats.
So I think it's $10,000.
Considering that SPCA is closed, it's really hard for them.
Also, Wellington Council has a similar process where they collaborate with rescues and they provide grants to rescues in order to.
But this doesn't help our situation here today, though.
No, I just think that the $10,000 is warranted and I think she does a lot of good work for the community. But I think also that at a council level, in terms of, addressing it, it's never going to get better. And in the presentation, she highlighted that one female cat, can have 300 kittens in 3 years.
I don't like the re-release part of it.
Yeah.
Sam doesn't encourage the release. That's the problem. It's the vocal ones up here are only allowing trapping if you release them after they've been neutered.
At least, at some point, if they're released, they'll die without procreating.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's
So
better than.
it's better than not doing it.
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
So is everyone happy with that? All in favour?
I
Sorry, Madam Chair, there's some over on the second floors.
Oh,
What to say?
Darren.
Second, it's
second, there's
Karen.
we're up to the 7.5, which is a quick statement of community board funding coverage. Yes. So I'll move the 7.1 statement of community board fund accounts.
Second.
All in favour?
Aye.
There's no other issue. To our chair review. So I shall move the chair reports. Do I have a second, please? Unfortunately, why did it get changed?
I did see it on the website and it's got the current one and your latest email had that.
So the agenda gets printed 5 days before it's sent, before the deadline. So the one that's printed doesn't always catch up with the one that we put on the website. Apologies, Madam
That's
Chair.
all right. That's okay. So I can't really get to my one, and I didn't bring a copy of the updated one, so I'll send
I
it.
can talk to you. That's in the public.
It is in the public. Yeah, but I can't remember.
Let me find it for you.
So drop.
Well, a couple of things. The, Bev and Adele, I sent that request from a resident of Donald Road asking how the process goes about, installing or pitching to have speed humps installed for safety reasons. I never got a reply, but I just want to reply to him about what's next, because he actually asked me back in August and I don't know how I missed it. And I felt a bit stink that I didn't get back to him in time. But what is the next process? How do we read that so that I can reply to him? Jack Whitfield's his name. 72 Donald. I had a look at the road via the, I haven't driven up there, but I know the area. And it sounds like the youth are just using the hill as a speed, as a speed ramp.
John, I have got something on our website that I can forward to.
Okay. What do we do as a community board with that? Is that something that we want to support, or is, I mean, it's only one person at this stage. What do you do next? No, but I personally think that hill could actually do with it. Speed hump, I don't know.
And also we've got Elizabeth Stacey online.
Yeah.
Later on today.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
And now
I had my visit to the CBEC, the community board exec meetings down in Wellington. We met, they seem to be on a, or not they, I suppose we seem to be on a drive to question community board remuneration. There's a lady on our board, Jackie Elliott from Otaki. She's been a 3-term councillor and now in the community board and just screams out that her workflow is more now than it was as a councillor. So she's pushing for a lot of this. So we had a meeting with the Remuneration Authority, and that was very interesting how basically the community board funds, like we needed to be educated. The community board remuneration is in a pool with obviously every other elected member, and there's so many councils in New Zealand that don't even have community boards. So, you know, the pockets of money, as Felicity would say, you know, we didn't realise the community board was any separate to the rest of the elected members. But the Remuneration Authority last year definitely they're completely on the community board side, recognising this. So what our team has done is actually put us on a Google spreadsheet for hours, and they're actually monitoring our hours over 3 months for this board, and also putting together a community board survey that will be answered by CEOs, mayors, and community board members on request. So, other than that, a lot of our discussion was around the community board conference for next year. I think what I'll do is I've printed these out, and it gives the key points to our meeting, and I've got one for everyone. But I wondered, is this something that I would normally say on my next report? Would I include that document?
You could, as a way of reporting back.
Yeah.
And also share that with the other community board members.
Yep. So my badge here, because choose localism, I asked. So there you go, guys. Which is the focus for local government New Zealand, and the focus for the community board. Next year, the community board, what am I trying to say? Conference is resilient communities.
So John, was there much discussion on local boards for this area, or
Sorry, what do you mean?
as opposed to a community board, have a local board?
It was brought up. I think the biggest problem for the community boards is getting a seat at the table, and they don't. Anyway, I spoke about this. It's often the councillors and the elected members at the next stage up aren't purposely leaving us out of things. It's just everyone's busy, and things happen, and often this community boards are not on the table, and that seems to be reflected nationwide. It's not just us, or they never seat at the table. So I don't know where it's headed, to be fair, but they're really pushing for localism, which we all agree on. We want, especially around contractors and things like that. But where we're headed with, like, it's very, very climate education control. Like our, it's the focus is on, I suppose, slightly different focus than what I'm on. Where I come from, do you know what I mean? When we met at Kaikoi and we had those two lovely ladies speak about educating around climate issues, climate change, I don't know what they're costing our council, but personally, those could be water tanks out in the
Stormwater
area.
engineers.
Yeah, or anything. I mean, our kids have been, everyone's been educated from all different angles around climate change.
Brainwashed, you mean?
Yeah, and is that going to help our problem? We're still going to get our storms, we're still going to get our things, but I'd like that investment to go direct to being resilient in a way.
I have a question for you.
Oh,
When they said they were going to monitor our hours over 3 months.
Yeah.
How are they planning
Oh,
on doing that?
we're just doing it as a team first, like there's 7 of us. So I created a spreadsheet for them and we're just doing it so that we know where we're at. That word come up or living wage come up was mentioned. And I can tell you right now, the spreadsheet, and I haven't even been doing a lot, doesn't pay anywhere near the. So these ladies on it, a few of the ladies on our group said they're earning $4 an hour, basically as a community board worker. And they seem very, very experienced in the role. They bring a lot to the table. So we're doing it. I don't know whether other members will get asked to do it, and the survey, but the survey should come to the members. So it'll come to you and it might say, how many hours do you work on community board direct? How many hours on other meetings that go with it, sort of thing. And the difference, they'll also be questioning the chairs because I mentioned that there was workload. And I think every other chair was in a similar position. Where it comes to, who knows, but they are trying.
I think it's so much.
Just through the chair, just want to follow up with what Darren was saying. The other thing that I'm finding too with our work that a lot of times it's on the phone. I mean, it's not recorded here, but as long as you're
So the spreadsheet.
Yeah, the spreadsheet covers it.
Answering emails, reading
Yeah,
agendas, on the phone, discussions, following up RSSs. So it was really broken down.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, good.
And one last thing, sorry, an RFS, if you could, 415-7804.
415.
This particular chap doesn't own the house, but he put this back in this when we had the storms back in 11th of May. I think he had a visit from someone, but nothing's happened, and he believes he's a builder himself. He believes the house is sunk now. The footings of the house is sunk down Wallace Road. So I don't know where that. He's asked me. He's phoned me twice. Can you please find out what's happening? Nothing's happened.
Was it a council thing?
It was. I think it was a blocked.
Culvert block
Cul-
causing drainage overflowing to a tenant's property and surrounding areas.
Yeah.
Oh, expected and job made for water tabling.
So Wireless Road is a land drainage area. That, we all know works have been done on that.
Oh, if I could just get an answer from him, because he's only the tenant, but he said the place was just about unlivable.
Yeah, I'm just sending you an email as well.
Okay.
So
So is it a building? Consider building notice or a land drainage?
No, it was just drainage issue. He said that you could see where the mistake, like why it was flooding straight away. So I haven't been to look at it myself.
Yeah, it was with Bolton Hogan, so I'll chase that one. The roads.
Is the key.
Thank you. So member X,
Okay, I've sort of got a question. The Kohanga Reo in Pukenui came and asked me how to go about getting a playground, and their playground is completely disheveled and not fit for purpose, and it's actually dangerous. But I'm not sure if Kohanga Reo, even though we gave funding to Cole, is that a school thing? Would they apply to school? Like I know that schools don't apply for us playgrounds, they for the different funding.
Is that a question?
It's a question. Because they don't know whether to take it forward,
Chair,
they don't know whether to take it forward or not.
They're going to have to apply to multiple funding sources, whatever they do.
Yeah.
Same as Potahi did. They fundraised and they got funding from other sources.
Okay.
The best option is put them in contact with me and I'll have a conversation with them.
I said I would do that.
So
I want to talk to you before I did that.
So-
I did that today.
with Te Kao, the reason
It's a
that
bit different, hey?
that we're collaborating with Te Kao is council own no reserve land there at all. Whereas in Pukina, we already have reserve land and we already have a playground there, council owned. And in terms of the marae, also they were putting the playground in a space that people naturally use for public use, which is adjacent to the toilets, which are also on private land and council funds to maintain
That's right.
service. And then there's the Te Kao shop, which is like the CBD of Te Kao.
I think it's that.
Yeah.
So PG, which Kohanga level?
Pukenui.
Mm.
And I just would like to say also that the footpathing from the heads is well underway. It's looking absolutely fantastic.
Mm.
I can't wait to see it finish. That's me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Rachel, are you online?
Rachel, would you like to speak to your report?
I can see you trying to speak, but your sound is not coming through.
She's trying to speak.
Perhaps we can come back once we sort out the.
Okay. So member Sabritsky, yours.
Just quickly take it as read, but all the issues on the Kata airport, they're being covered now by Ngāi Tapato, i.e. Rangi Marsden. So I won't sort of make any more comment because that'll be it'll be in public media, so yeah, you'll get an accurate account of that. Included in my report was just a quick breakdown of the initial meeting we had. In terms of the halls, you take that as read. You all know that the Lake Oea hall development is about to start. Originally the funds were lost, but the asset management team found those funds. They were allocated to Lake Oea round 4 2023. They were found by and re-established by the asset manager, Jeanette.
Who's online?
Yeah, and so now the plans have been drafted and it is underway. And I just kept quiet about that, so it would happen. But again, it was allocated in our
Yes, it was.
2023 plan. Still waiting for some direction. Felicity, you might be able to help me in terms of what they want to do with the halls, what's happening. Is there any movement there? Do the 4 committees have to approach final district council, or are we still in limbo at this stage?
Halls are a delegation of the community board.
Okay.
We've got Jeanette online. I guess the question for me, if I was to invest, I don't know what the amount of money is. You might know. Jeanette might know.
354.
$354,000.
Don't know that, but 350, between 350 and 400.
Between $350,000 and $400,000. Don't know if that's from the ward rate or the general rate. I would question, what is the building going to be used for? What's the duration of the asset, its life asset? You know, what are the opportunity costs, you know, in terms of the other halls, but I don't know if our council approaches assets in that way, if we just keep renewing assets over and over again and don't look at our strategic approach. Yeah.
Well, sorry, through the chair. My comment on that would be that was planned earlier. It has always been there. And no move or no action was taken to remove it. And yeah, so it is actually happening now. Plans have been drawn up. And the work is supposed to start, according to the chair, John Templeton, very soon.
So is
Okay.
Jeanette England able to speak to that comment, please?
Jeanette, did you hear?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, she is attempting to speak again.
Okay, I'm just going to pull this round to see if it's this or something else.
One moment,
Can you
Jeanette,
hear
while
me?
we make sure we've got sound in the room.
That's why it's turned off. All right, again, here we go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't prepared to speak. I was just listening in. So as Bill said, the funding for Lake Ohia was in the LTP, and it got lost, but it was still sitting in there. I've met with the community board not the community board, the committee a number of times, and so the design and everything for that hall is proceeding, and it's a renewal fund, I believe, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it is, and I don't have that information in front of me. But yes, the plans have been drawn up and they're currently submitted for building consent, I understand at this point.
What do we need building consent for?
Are
you doing an addition?
The accessibility toilets. So because we're upgrading the toilets to accessibility, you have to have a building consent.
And Jeanette, is renewals funds, and the work's done through depreciation funds. Is depreciation collected from the general rate?
I don't know, Felicity. You'd have to ask finance.
Asset for ward assets.
So the halls are ward rated.
In terms of operations?
Operations, yes.
Okay.
So I understand from the hall committee that the hall is used quite extensively. They use it a lot. They have regular bookings for their hall. That's the information that I received from them when we were first talking the design over a year ago now.
And can I just
how many meetings a week do they have?
Sorry?
Do they have weekly use of the hall, or once a year, or once 3 years?
I'm not sure. You would have to get that information from the hall committee, and that should be in their annual returns that they submit to council.
I think the issue is when you have people that have a vested interest, like let's just say a neighbour, they might have a different perspective of high usage relative to being objective. Yeah. So it would be good for any decisions about hall renewals to be a motion of the board if it's a delegation of the board. Yeah, I don't know if that's part of what was done historically, or if we own assets, if they're always renewed anyway.
So my only comment to that would be that it went through the last LTP as a renewal. So it's always been in the budget as a renewal. And that got approved through the last LTP.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you, Jeanette. Basically, I work with them on a month. Basically, I work on them with them on a monthly basis. That the activity there is probably tripled in terms of when we first started, but again, that was due to the committee and inclusion of others in the community. It's growing. I've seen it grow. And if we were at a later date to hand over these halls to the committees, they have to be in a reasonable operating condition before we do that, or if they want to take that responsibility. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just another addition. Recently, I want to use the example of Rangi Puta where the community has chipped in. Thank you We got the funding through the Mail Relief Fund for the seawall. I think most of that work's been done, and as well as the ramp, the main ramps. Now I've got another problem at the other end, which has always been there, and that's Gillies Road for access to the beach. Nothing's been done there, and as a consequence, we're getting this sort of stuff happening because basically it's a drop. It was a paper road originally, and I want to use the example. We're trying to use the same example as we used in Rangiputa with the seawall, where the community wants to put in funding and to help get at least the Gillies Road open and accessible to the public in terms of access to the beach and emergency exit from the beach, which is the only alternative we've got. And I just want to know, how do I go through that process, if there was a process at all?
I think we need to, that question will be for Elizabeth.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
And can I ask one question? Is my ward called Whatawhiwhi only, or is it Whatawhiwhi Awanui? Yep, no problem. Otherwise, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Britsky, so, and your voting room.
Well, firstly, I'd like to thank you all for your warmth and kindness regarding Neil. But I fully agree with Fiona King. I just honestly wonder about the purpose of being here when for 4 years we've struggled and struggled and we've got precisely nowhere. What are we going to do now? So are we going to do anything as a result of her? Are we going to talk to the chief executive and say, these are our expectations? Or what? And I also have a query regarding a lot of money is going towards things like climate change, emission reduction, cultural enhancement that aren't actually helping people today. I notice on the footpath list, for example, a whole lot of things are being put out. I know it's not the same budget, but as the, I don't feel budgets are being allocated in the way they should be to help people today, because it's all about the future and there's nothing for people who actually pay rates today. Thank you. I didn't want to cry.
I'd like to think that we can work with the coordinator Bev and Chris to enhance our land drainage bylaw and this particular issue.
Who's Chris?
Oh, sorry, Scott. Sorry, Scott.
Well, I want some answers by the next meeting, please, as to what exactly is going to happen to improve the situation.
Madam Chair, the CEO is coming to Kaitaia tomorrow.
Time?
Oh, it was just supposed to meet with me. I can see Tanya's online. She'll be coming with him. So I can see that she's been listening to the issues at hand about not just land drainage, but stormwater in general. And I guess really the comprehension around what stormwater is and what's the difference between all the different types and who's addressing each of those, and how that relates in particular to the compliance team and the bylaws and who's enforcing them, and what's the timeframes to address it, because they're not going to be able to do it all at once. We need to be realistic as well. And I think that's just because it's been, we had previous general managers that, weren't addressing it either. And each department said it was each other's jobs, and therefore nobody did anything. I can see if he can make his visit longer, says Deputy Mayor Stratford. Thank you, Kelly. I can see Tanya's online. She's got a lot of experience in Three Waters and knows all about the different stormwater issues. So I don't know, Tanya, did you want to respond at all about that? Here she comes.
Kia koutou, through you, Madam Chair. Drainage districts, I've just started a new role yesterday, yes, at my new desk, so I will have a look into them and try and get make some sense at the very least, just for myself, by your next meeting, and come back to you if I can. I just need a little bit of time in a new role to work out what has or hasn't happened, and then understand that and make a plan forward if that's okay.
Thank you. Did
Yeah.
you hear Fiona King's deputation?
No, I didn't. Sorry, I can go back and watch it though.
Okay, thank you.
Tanya, just in terms of the board itself, I think it'd be helpful to the drainage committees and, you know, and people that come and talk to us, that for our legal department to make it clear what is the difference between the different types of stormwater when the land drainage bylaw applies, and what is the difference between the Drainage Act 1908 and how that applies, and what's a civil issue and when does council, you know, come into it, so we can tell people, well, that's a civil matter, or this is, you know, this is something that council was involved with, just to make it really clear so that people don't get frustrated, and also whose department is doing it or not. So we're really clear who the contact is for the different classes of stormwater and for the bylaw enforcement.
What we actually want is somebody to go around and have a look at the bylaw breaches and then, you know, monitor them and then do whatever to the people who are breaching them.
So yeah, that doesn't necessarily have to be you, Tanya, but we just need to know who that person is so that we can ensure it's done. So we look forward to your visit tomorrow. And I don't know, if would we have time for the board to just express, you know, their concerns tomorrow, Tanya, about this, or can we make a later date?
I don't think, I'm sure that the board's position and frustration is actually already clear. I think it's probably solutions and outcomes and, you know, to be worked on. And like you say, working or being clearer, by even if that needs to be added to maps, but being clear about what is in, what is out, what lives where, who owns what. I think we can, if we work on that.
Agreed. See you tomorrow. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, have you,
That's me then.
Cambridge, some boy, would you like to give a verbal report?
Yes, although there's been lots happening at council, but first and foremost, I just wanted to give recognition to John, you know, going and making all that effort to going to the community board conference, and I hear what he's saying about the workload, and I've expressed frustrations as well about the councillors, you know, and how we're not, basically don't have to have any qualifications or experience to be in this role, and then also in terms of who actually does what jobs. One councillor can have no portfolios, be on no committees, or, you know, have no specific jobs, like the community board is one, creative communities is another, you know, different working groups is another. And then the chair of the community board can do a lot more than a councillor, because they're doing a lot more positions than the actual councillor is doing. So I recognise that, and I just want to say I appreciate all that you do, because with the changes in the ward structure as well, with the new multi-ward councillors, that means that there's less general councillors. So in terms of contact, if let's just say a councillor doesn't have any phone number on the website, and there's only one councillor in the area with a phone number on the website and able to be contacted, that means that that person will always be contacted, and then the default is actually the community board members, because that councillor has no way of contacting them.
And also, Felicity, sorry to jump in, but what you're saying, the remuneration is done over a population base, whereas a small population, you're probably going to get more calls than you know what I mean, because you're more well known, you know. So it doesn't actually make sense that the way they actually work out. Yes. Sorry, carry on.
They are doing a review of local government at central government level. I don't know if that will, what that will result in, but I think that it's just reflective that it needs to change. They're looking at the Auckland structure, but also the actual way that local government itself is financed. We don't get any portion of GST. We don't get any portion of income tax. It's just purely based on a very old way of taxing, in our case, based on land value and targeted rates. So yes, I agree with you that it should change, but also I think we'll be raising with the councillors just about sharing out the workload with all the people. All the councillors remunerated the same. They all have the same job, apart from the mayor and the deputy mayor, who have different remuneration and obviously different jobs. So in theory, if you're in any sort of company, then you should have the same amount of workload if you're remunerated the same. And I don't think that the community board chair in particular, let alone the community board members, are remunerated fairly based on the amount of work that you do. So I hope that central government recognises that in the new structures, but also in terms of the appointments of councillors, that's recognised when we look at changing our structure of our committees later this year. So Moko is on leave for 3 weeks and he's going over to
Belfast,
Ireland.
Northern Ireland, Belfast.
Yes. Top young politician of the world. So something of that nature. So putting us on the map. And also he's finished his master's degree and also it's his birthday. So lots of things, to celebrate, to take a while to serve break. So Kelly's our mayor in charge for 3 weeks while Mock was away. So it's great to see her online, hearing all of our concerns. And acting there, she says. And also our CEO, which is very exciting. So we only employ one person. Guy is our new CEO and he is up here in Hiku. Some of the issues that I'm going to bring up with him tomorrow are procurement, the equitability of resource consents and building consents here in Hiku. We no longer have any building officers based here in Te Ahu. And in terms of their contracts, we have no planners. You can't go to a journey planner or a duty building officer here in Kaitai. You can only get that in Kirikiri, and yet we pay for 30% of their department from our general rate.
Right.
And we also, in terms of inspections, we have one building officer in this area, but their contract, their base is not here. And previously we used to have a north team and a south team for building consents and resource consents, and now it's totally changed and it's centralised in Kirikiri. So,
Well done, Leslie, well done.
So in my view, if we're paying, then we should be saying.
Okay.
And because we're paying, that means that that we 2 hours away from Kaikui, an hour and a half or more from Kirikiri, we should have the same level of service. So I'll be bringing that up. We've got a hand up.
I want to know the reason you've got no building inspectors anymore? Because they get bullied, harassed, treated extremely badly. They will leave.
Well, I think that that's a good topic for new member X to bring up with our CEO, because I think it's part of the culture.
That's the culture.
That probably our CEO needs to be aware of it, if you are aware of any of those instances yourself personally. So Guy will be here tomorrow, and you're welcome to share with him your feedback as a board. I would like him to come to our board. I don't know, is that on the agenda, Beverly, or?
It's noted.
Just to introduce himself and hear the concerns of the board, because my favourite part about being a councillor is actually this board. And that's because it's locally based and everybody works together in order to get, good outcomes. I know I'm a councillor for the whole district, but Te Hiku sometimes I feel like is a different land from Kirikiri.
It is.
Yeah. And you know, Leno and Hiku are 2 hours away. Geographically, we're so huge. We've already brought up stormwater and drainage. We're going to bring up that with the CO. We're going to bring about procurement in terms of what we did with our master plan, having local procurement, having targets for that in terms of actually the percentage of contractors that are local, the size of the contracts, and also external procurement and actually delivering more procurement plans by doing them externally so we can deliver more projects in general for our capital works program. All of those things we've done really well over COVID. Yeah, and I think lastly, the example of what Bill was bringing up about the halls that we've got. It's great that we've got a lot of halls in our district, but I think that the way that we've always done it is just a rollover of, you know, how we've always done it. We just keep doing it the same way. So I think the revenue and financing policy and how we actually look strategically at our assets, how we're paying for those, book value depreciation instead of condition assessment depreciation. And if we're going to spend $400,000, you know, on an asset, what are we going to get out of that in terms of extra bonus things or extra use or, you know, amazing things that I'm sure like Oki are doing every week that are in their report from their members. So maybe we should do some comms about that, about all of the events that are happening at like Oki, and we're going to have this big investment. And what are the opportunities that we're going to get from that investment? If we're putting, you know, money into things like that, but also opportunities. You know, do the halls have Wi-Fi? Do they, you know, with DOC, what's the collaboration opportunities with regional council? What are the collaboration opportunities with Northland Inc? What are the collaboration opportunities? I just think sometimes we need to think maybe how we've always done it is not necessarily the best way, and we've got other opportunities by collaboration. I think that's enough from me.
Thank you. And I believe Rachel, member Balkey, has said that just to take her report as read.
Sorry, through the chair, I just one more thing about the CBEC. You'll note that there's a push. Well, there was a remit over the KiwiSaver for elected members. You all know about that, but I see there's also a push, which I think was come from the CBEC meetings around. Spoke to the remuneration authority around the elected members, like central government getting, I think it was 3 months payment at the end of their term. You know, it's like as soon as you're voted out, that's it. You lose all your income, whereas central government get 3 months payment. So that's something else that we're bought on. Yeah.
For not doing anything.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because they've got to go find another job. Yeah. So that was also, and I noticed it in Mayor Moko's notes from his meetings last week.
Would it be great if there were minimum qualifications and experience to be an elected member as well?
So,
Agreed.
so all in favour of the members' report? I vote. So we're going on to the last item, and which is 8.2.
Rachel has a quick question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
When is the working group getting moving for the Pack and Save site?
I'll have to take that offline and talk to her. I don't know.
Soon.
Soon, hopefully.
Yeah, they've got to, when you see the fences go up, that's what.
Okay.
We're on to 8.2, which is the action sheet. I've already had a, I'll move it. Do I have a second, please?
Oh.
So we've already had a bit of discussion around the drainage, and we're all going to work together, Scott.
Right, leave it on until we finish.
Leave it on until we've sorted that. But anything else on here that needs to be?
I'd like to leave Manikoto Reserve on just till it goes through the hoops, please.
It's in the pictures.
Yeah, it is. It's all up.
Yeah.
So the parklet for the dining space for GC's Cafe.
We can ask Elizabeth that one,
So
an update on that one.
we can talk to Elizabeth Stacey.
Oh, there it is.
On that one.
Madam Chair, on page 84, it's specifically E, request a briefing from Kevin Johnson about the monitoring and bylaw breaches and a timeline for the appointment of land drainage staff and a job description.
Well, there we go. We've already asked for that.
But Andy Finch has reported back, but not Kevin Johnson in regard to the compliance.
Well, that's what we hope. Oh, it's really neat by next meeting.
So that was, what date was that?
In May.
Yeah.
So same old, nothing
We've
different.
done it over and over. Spring, autumn, low tide, no wind, spray. How hard can it be?
Well,
So is
obviously,
there going to be a workshop for the drainage?
We've done the workshops. We've done every
It's not
workshops.
through the chair.
It's embarrassing.
Work.
It is.
There's no workshop scheduled for the drainage committees. The last conversation I had with Mr. Finch is that he was talking directly to the chairs of the committees and none of them requested a workshop, I understand. Before the close of the year. So there's no workshop scheduled.
So can we ensure that there is a drainage meetings held in the new year?
So yeah, through the chair, yes, it is the community board that sets the dates for the drainage meetings. So we can bring that report
Okay.
to the February meeting with dates.
I would actually prefer it being
December?
to the either, have we got a December meeting? A December meeting, so we can set those dates.
And I can see that Tone is still online. I think it's really important that not just Andy Finch comes, the compliance team have to come at the same time, because the people delivering the physical works can't actually do it without a warranted officer going and telling these people to move their structures and, oh, you're not allowed to fill in drains and you're not allowed to fill, plant trees adjacent to yeah.
if we've asked for a manager to turn up in about May and he still hasn't,
Yeah.
why are we here?
Yeah, through the chair, look, I've definitely heard loud and clear today around the drainage stuff. I will pick this up with Kevin and CE and make sure that we address this. I think to your point earlier, this is about being collaborative. And the approach we're probably taking, sit with someone, probably Kevin's got it, and I'll give that to Andy, and this is where we have stuff fall through the cracks. So we'll do our best to identify.
Oh, thank you so much.
Bring it back to this group.
I'm trying to
Clear
see.
plans and information.
Through the chair also, as the community board coordinator with Hiku, I've been asked not to deal with anything with drainage committees, so that's why I don't.
Well, it's our delegation, so how does that happen?
So who does it? No.
Democracy services. If it doesn't sit with the community board coordinators, then it sits with democracy services.
Okay.
That is, if the drainage committees continue next year. So we just need to set the dates and then get the meetings involved.
I would like to see.
I didn't know that it wasn't sitting with the community coordinator, to be honest. We'll look into that.
So we have a delegation that the community coordinator can't have anything to do with this.
Yeah,
Not surprising, actually.
No, I didn't realise.
Yeah.
I haven't noted though.
I think it's just clear though that because it is a different, Kaikohe and Bay of Islands don't have, any land drainage areas. And so the only area that the land drainage bylaw applies and the only area where the works program is up here. So
yes,
Tanya,
Okay, so we're trying to get the date set, so I'd quite like to have
What happened
in December to set the date so that they can actually have a meeting because I've only had one this year. It's supposed to be 2 meetings.
Right.
That'd be great.
Right, public exposure now, is that?
So,
Do we need
all
to
in
vote?
favour of the. Aye.
Aye.
Approved.
Through the chair, do I step out of public exclusion?
No need, we're going to, Harley, could you pause the live stream while we need to, sorry, Madam Chair, before we do that, we need to move into public.
Second.
Move in, thank you. I move it.
Aye.
All in favour?
Aye.
Public.
Harley, if you can please pause the live
These
stream.
guys stay, don't they? They go, don't they?
Ending our meeting today. I'm now going to close the meeting with a karakia. Thank you.
Ready?
Yep.
Let the strength and life force of our ancestors be with us and every one of us, freeing our path from obstruction so that our words, spiritual power, love, and language are upheld, firmly fixed, established, and understood. Forward together.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you all, thank you, Harley, you can end the live stream now.
Thank you, Harley.